Blog Talk Radio.
Good day to all. Thank you for tuning into the Uvisualeyes show, where you will experience the top most powerful, insightful, and talented teachers, speakers, and writers on inner wisdom, personal evolution, and love. Here you will have the opportunity to learn how to create or manifest the life experience you prefer. This is your host and life transformation coach and energy healer, Michelle Kraft. Welcome. If you missed the last show with Tiffany K, featuring her daily inspiration book, Joyscope, you will find the show in the archives and can listen at your leisure. On September 27th at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, tune into the Uvisualeyes show, where Peter Calhoun and discover the secret to your personal empowerment and a life of ecstatic joy through his new book, Life Without Limits. Also, if you have any questions for our guest, you can call in. The number is on the show page. The Uvisualeyes show is becoming a more exciting experience every week. Without fail, there's yet another amazing healer, teacher, or shaman as my guests here, sharing their extraordinary insights. And now, broadcasting from various parts of the world, it's an even more stimulating and evocative experience. Today on the Uvisualeyes show, we will be dishing about sex and intimacy. JodiAmbrose is an ex-'80s rocker chick, former high school teacher, and in-your-face author, all rolled into one. Having survived many wild experiences with a strong sense of self and a wickedly saucy sense of humor, she ended up with an axe to grind and a story to tell. Luckily, through all the craziness along the way, she took notes. Jodi became aware of the pride, game-playing, abject stupidity, and thoughtlessness that turned good people into lousy mates. So she paid attention. She tracked what types of behavior and language could produce a genuine smile or a rolled eye or shed a tear. What she noticed was that in most cases, people responded to stimuli in a similar way. In her books, Sex, How to Get More of It, and Intimacy, How to Get More of It, she takes a no-holds-barred approach to relationships for all the men and women out there. What can you do or not do to bring joy to your significant other? How can you work it so that both of you are happy and getting what you need? The titles may be blunt, but she believes in getting straight to the point. Men typically want more sex. Women typically want more intimacy, security, and love. These books unlock the mysteries on how to achieve all of that, believe it or not, in 20 easy steps. Welcome to the Uvisualeyes show, Jodi.
Thank you so much, Michelle. I am delighted to be with you today.
I am delighted you're here, too, and you're quite welcome. Before we get started, Jodi, I want to say that your books are a fun, candid, and easy read. Definitely packed full of straightforward, no-brainer tips on having more sex and intimacy.
Oh, thank you. I wanted to make sure that they never came across as preachy and, I didn't want that vibe at all. I always wanted people to feel like they were sitting down, having a cocktail, and kind of talking about the things that can make your life and your love life just so much happier.
We could all use that, I'm sure, even those lucky ones who have a lot more than others. And, in each one of your books, the one for women, Intimacy, How to Get More of It, and the one for men, Sex, How to Get More of It, you first give 20 tips and then explain each. Of course, we don't have the time to go through all of them, nor do we want to give away any secrets. So why don't you pick a handful first from the women's guide that you think is a priority and talk to us about those.
Oh, you bet. It's my pleasure. It's funny because the women's book was actually much harder to write than the men's book when I was coming up with these 20 different elements that women can do to have a much happier life. Because to be quite blunt, men, you can kind of, you can let it all hang out. They're not going to worry about a cuss word here and a cuss word there and, a little bit of snarkiness. Whereas with the women, I had to be a little more cautious with it. But I do have a few favorites, no doubt about it. One of them really, and this is going to sound a little bit funny, but one is to keep your muff issues to yourself.
Oh, that's a favorite.
I get a lot of feedback from the ladies and from the guys on that one because, it's funny. Lots of times when you get into a relationship, you get really comfortable with that person. Have you found that to be the case with yourself, Michelle? You just get in this
Definitely. We've been together 11 and a half years, and a lot more comfortable. The door hangs open a little too many times in the bathroom. Exactly. And, it's kind of natural for those things to happen over time. But then we have to kind of step back and remember that, one of the things that's so intriguing about a new relationship and that gets people all excited and keeps that flame burning bright is a little bit of mystery. So when they can see the bathroom door open and what's going on in there, or you're talking about girly issues with your man and that's only really the kind of thing that your gynecologist needs to hear, that mystery kind of goes by the wayside and can kill that spark a little bit. Or a lot. Or a lot, depending on the person. I have a sweetie pie, by the way, so he's slightly different from other men, but I have come to know, and I know he's listening, he's actually in New York working, but I've come to know that he's a little more of a man than he wants to admit.
I think most of them are.
Yeah, so I think that's probably true, and we both work at different parts of the world. We just came from Dresden, and so we spend some time away, and it actually is the one thing I think that keeps the spark going because we don't see each other all the time, so the mystery keeps going. So that's one of the ways it happens in ours. But for those who spend 24/7, that might be a different issue.
It really can be. I was out a few months ago with a couple of friends of ours. It was my husband and me and a couple other couples, and they were talking about a girlfriend of theirs who was having some, I'll be delicate, some girl issues kind of south of the border. And she went on to explain to her boyfriend in graphic detail what was going on in front of other people. And he looked at her and said, "If you ever expect me to go downtown again, you're freaking crazy." And I thought, what man would want to put his face there after what you just told us? Oh, my good Lord. Yeah. So if you want your man to do things and build intimacy and build a wonderful sex life, you might want to avoid those types of conversations with him. Sometimes honesty, people can take it a little too far. Keep some things to yourself.
Right. As you put it in the book, your man sees your muff as a magical adventure land.
Exactly. He does not want to see it as something that scares people if they were to look at it.
Right. That is a good one. And that was the first one you chose. And I'm sorry I got a little ahead of myself. I think I'm quite excited. We're going to have so much fun here. But I wanted you to also to tell us a little more. I mean, I read some about why you wrote the handbooks on the sex and intimacy in the first place.
I'm sorry, say that one more time for me?
Oh, I just wanted you to tell our listeners a little more about how or why you wrote the books.
Oh, yeah, you betcha. My pleasure. Growing up, I always had a lot of guy friends. I really don't, very little offends me, so guys never had to worry about their language in front of me or, talking shop about women in front of me. So I had a lot of male friends over the years, and I would just listen to them nag and whine about women and all the things they did that drove them crazy. And I could really see their perspective in a lot of ways. Not always, but in a lot of ways. I would just start trying to kind of compile in my head, well, what does make for a really good girlfriend or what does make for a really good wife? It doesn't actually compromise who the person is. Because, Michelle, the last thing I want to do is tell anybody who they need to be. That's not how this is going at all. What it's about are kind of those little things that you can tweak that can make a relationship a lot more fun. So about, a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, a friend of mine from when I was very young posted on his Facebook wall, and he was complaining about his girlfriend, just going on and on. She drives me crazy. She does this. She does that. And so I posted back to him, and I said, look, do these 10 things. She'll worship the ground you walk on. You won't have another relationship problem. So a couple of months later, he writes back, and he's like, oh, my God, you have to write a book. Like, write a book now. And so we got this big, 300-comment Facebook thing going on. And what it turned out was that so many of the guys that he was friends with on his page had tried out a lot of the suggestions I gave and were actually much happier. So that was kind of the very last little impetus that I needed to kickstart actually writing the book. That was the kind of the push that sent me over the cliff.
Well, when a man asks you to write it, yes, definitely, because women have probably been asking for a good long time.
So it was fantastic, and I also had a gentleman at work. He was wonderful. He was the guy that kind of took care of the building, and we were really good friends. He would come up to me. His name was Leo. He would come up to me all the time and say, you need to get out of this place, and you need to go write books and help people. So really the two things together, and I'm a writer. That's my background. I'm an English major and high school teacher. Those two things together really just compelled me. So the guy's book came first, and then the ladies were screaming and yelling at me, hey, where's our book?
Right, where's our book? I really loved it because one of the things that occurred to me was that both my husband and I do many of the things in there, and we have a really fantastic relationship. And I was really proud, but also I was like, oh, dang, I should have wrote it.
That's
like,
awesome.
That
makes me so good, though. That's wonderful because it means some of the suggestions that I've got in here actually do, work with real everyday people. And that's what I wanted it to come across as. You don't have to be Superwoman or Superman to do these things. You don't even have to have any money. Nothing in here really costs any money to do. It's all just about being real and accessible, and so that everyone can read it and go, oh, maybe if I just did those 2 or 3 extra things, life would be a little bit happier.
Yeah, and I'm here to say, when you do get these books, which I highly recommend it, you're going to take a look at these at first glance, and you might cringe at some of them because there's many, many, many single people out there that refuse to do any of these, and I was one of those because I was waiting for him to change.
Yeah, clearly you're not single anymore, so yeah, something must have occurred.
Exactly, and he's an amazing man, and I have a great relationship. But for years and years, I was convinced that my duty was to change the man, and I tried real hard. It don't work. No. People modify behaviors, but they don't change. And generally speaking, I'm not talking to every single human being on earth, but generally speaking, people don't change innately who they are. You can modify things, but you can never change the basic infrastructure of a human being in the way that they work. So yeah, I'm glad that you were able to get over the I'm going to change, rescue, save you. It just doesn't work, unfortunately. Yeah, we are convinced that our way is the better way, but so are they.
Yeah. And that, it's funny because my husband and I, we are coming up on our 5-year first date anniversary. We've been married about 3.5 years. And he and I are both very alpha. Neither one of us kind of sits by, right? So, but somehow, because we don't let pride get in the way and controlling behaviors get in the way, even though we're both alpha, we never really bump heads because it's all about compromise and it's all about seeing the other person's perspective and staying strong with who you are, but understanding that if you want to be in a happy relationship, that sometimes you need to learn how to blend instead of always bumping into each other.
Exactly. And that's interesting. We're so much alike. It's very exciting because we're both the same way. We're very active. Obviously, he's working in New York, and I'm around different places, and we're both like that as well. And in the beginning, we did bump heads a lot, mostly in the kitchen, and we'll get to that because you have some things to say about that.
Yes, I do.
So what's another favorite of yours as far as the women's side?
Well, here's the one that the men love me the most for having written, one of the couple, is that being a nag is a big no-no. That
Definitely.
one, seriously, the best way to absolutely murder intimacy and your sex life is to constantly nag at your man. They don't want a mother. They don't want, well, hopefully, they want their partner to be a woman, not mom. They don't need a nursemaid. They don't need a school teacher with a ruler snapping at their knuckles. A man wants a woman, hopefully, a healthy, secure man wants a woman who is a challenge, who is loving, who is kind and compassionate, who's fun and smart. Men want all these things. They don't want you to be the person that when they come home from work, jumps on them immediately and says, how come you didn't do this? Or I need you to do this. Or, oh, these 10 things you promised to. Oh, my God, who wants to come home to that? Nobody. So learning how to step away from that, and I give you strategies on how to do it, because it's not, you can't just go from being a horrible nag one day to being a saint the next, right? So I try to give you some strategies on trying to identify what are the important things, and I mean really important things, not like just important because I want them done so they're important, but what are the really important things that need to get done, and the rest of it, can you do it? Can your kid do it? Can the neighbor do it? Can you hire someone to do it? If your man is just lazy, he's probably just lazy, and there's nothing that you can do, or no matter how much you nag, that's going to change that in him. So you have to learn to adapt around that.
Definitely, and one of the, if I may add my own tactic in there, one of the things that I do is I have a dry erase board, and and he lovingly calls it the honey-do list. And I put the things on there that I need him to do, mostly because I can't do it. It's something, that's out of my talent, let's put it that way, maybe strength as well. And I put it on there, but I don't say anything about it. And for this way, he sees it, he knows it's there, nobody needs to say it, and in his time, he'll do it. And it's not a nagging thing, it stays up there, but I don't say anything. I do not say a word about it.
That is a terrific strategy because you want to be able to communicate when you need something. I mean, there are tons of things in this house that I simply cannot do. I don't have the strength, the knowledge, the skills. And my husband can do it in 10 seconds, right? So you need to be able to feel comfortable asking for things, being on a whiteboard, which is a brilliant idea, by the way, or doing it verbally without being a total nag about it. I mean, I watched some, people over the years, couples, friends of ours, and I often wonder how the husband doesn't just stick duct tape over her face and shove her in a closet.
All right.
I'd kill her. Oh, my God. So just learning, one of the things I joke about is that, in just when you're nagging about something, is it something that needs to be done right now? And if it's not done, someone's going to get hurt. The house is going to catch on fire, someone's going to die, or your car is going to get repossessed. Like, if it's not that critical, good Lord, let the man breathe, because you want them to want to come home to you. And that's one of the biggest things that men over the years have shared with me, is that they make up excuses not to come home directly from work. They go out with the guys. They work late on purpose, because they don't want to come home because they know what they're going to face when they get in the door, especially if you have kids and you throw all those extra kind of elements into the game. And so because of that, the intimacy suffers, the sex life suffers, the remaining friends, above and beyond the sex, just the friendship of the marriage can start to crumble because if you're never together and he dreads seeing your face when he gets home, that is just a recipe for walking down the divorce road, and I don't want anyone to have to get there if they don't have to.
Right, that's eventually where it goes. It might last for a few years, but it gets there because they get, anyone would. Women would too as well.
Oh, exactly. So, yeah, that's a huge one. Another one that the guys tend to like is they love that I tell them I tell ladies to, and this is a real simple one. Some of them are much more complex than this, but this is one of the easy ones that you can do that's not changing who you are as a human, is to never, ever ask a man, except under the most extreme, life-altering, I'm going to divorce you if you don't answer me situations, never, ever ask a man, what are you thinking? Don't do it, because you don't want to know.
Especially if you're asking during the game.
Oh, exactly. He wants you essentially dead during the game. So just simply do not speak to him during the game. Let him have his man time. Nothing's important enough unless something is catching fire to disturb him. But, I mean, when you ask a man what he's thinking, first off, the very first thought that goes through most men's minds is, if I wanted you to know, I'd tell you. So you're already kind of infringing on their own personal space in their mind because maybe they don't want to discuss it with you. Or it could be, and I joke with my husband about this all the time, it could be that there's just literally nothing. Like, they're not sitting there, like, doing, and they're blank. Like, I don't know how men do it. I've never known a woman who can just blank her brain.
I wish I could do that.
I wouldn't have to take over-the-counter sleep meds at night if I could shut my brain off, right? But I can't. Exactly. My brain runs nonstop.
And it's amazing that they can say nothing. And my husband has told me that. I'm not thinking anything. I'm like, how is that possible? I mean, how can you not be thinking anything? And he just stares at me with this look that says, I'm not thinking anything.
Yeah, it's just like a vacuous hole of man flesh. Like, there's nothing going on there. So if you ask him that question, he's either thinking nothing, or he's thinking it's none of your business, or he's thinking something negative that you might not want to hear anyway. And so it helps when you come up with different strategies for kind of communicating the same idea but not saying it with those words, because it's those words that really tend to annoy the hell out of men. So, maybe if he's been quiet for the last week, and that's unnatural to his personality, maybe instead of saying, honey, what are you thinking? Immediate nails on chalkboard. You may say something like, honey, you seem to have been a little bit quiet lately. I love you. I just want to know if there's anything you need to talk about, I just want you to know I'm here for you. So you're putting the ball in his court. You're treating him like an adult. You're giving him the space that he needs, and then allowing him to make the decision to come to you. Because that conversation, if there is something going on, and it could just be a little nothing, someone's annoying him at work, but if you allow him to come to you, you're going to have a much healthier, productive conversation than if you force him to talk to you about things.
They'll make things up, too.
Well, exactly, just to shut you up. And you're like, I didn't want to hear that. That's not good. It's more problematic than it needs to be.
My husband's so funny, though. He's sweet. Because I was thinking just how beautiful you are.
Oh, I love him.
And I know that's really not it, but hey, I'm happy.
I don't even care if he's lying or not. Like, that's
right?
Awesome. All men out there who are listening, please do that, because your woman will absolutely love it.
Yeah, definitely. Every day I get that. So it's a good tip. We should do a couples show, you guys and the two of us, and dish back and forth on this.
Honest to goodness, because I'll tell you, it's amazing how you can pick up so many little things and you hear other people talk about their healthy, good relationships. Just the little tiny things that you can do. Like my husband, it's like, let's say like we're watching TV and a beautiful woman comes on screen. Okay, now I'm not stupid enough to think that the man is blind, right? But I am crazy enough to not want him to go, oh, my God, I'd like to tap that, because I would knock him into the floor and run him over with my car, because I'm neurotic about that stuff. I know it's weird. It's how I am, and, men can either take it or leave it, right? So what he'll do, and I know he's lying through his teeth, but I don't care, because the effort that he's making is so cute. There's some gorgeous woman's on TV, and he'll look at me, he'll look at the TV, and he'll say, she's a hag. You're beautiful. And I just want to immediately climb on him because I know, obviously, the girl's not a hag, she's gorgeous. But he wants me to know that no matter what women are surrounding him in real life, in person, wherever, on the television set, that I am always the most beautiful woman in the world to him. And it's those kinds of things, while probably half the time it's complete flat-out lie, I don't care. Because it makes me feel cherished and loved. You know, and it's really help.
Exactly, and if your girlfriend hears it, the better.
Exactly. So, yeah. I mean,
so, you know, we're jumping into the men's side here, and one of the things that, and this is something I think that women have a hard time getting by, but I think I'm finally accepting it, and you say it in the book here, is you state that men are simple creatures.
Yes.
So you want to elaborate on that for the men and women?
It's funny because each gender is kind of simple about some things and then incredibly complicated about other things. But with men, I mean, I have a checklist. In a girl's book, I have a checklist on the kinds of things that men are looking for in a woman. And, of course, they vary depending on the man.
Right.
But essentially, you know, if you know the top 10 things that your man likes or wants in a woman, you don't have to do all 10. I'm not asking you to be a saint, right? I'm not going to probably do all 10. But if you pick those things that are most important to him that don't go against your grain, so they're not changing who you are, it's not something that you find repugnant or repulsive or something like that, if you try to kind of fulfill that woman checklist, because men they're much more black and white in a lot of ways than women are, whereas we have all these shades of gray, all these nuances and tone and this and that and all that kind of men, if you give them these, 5, 6, 7, 8 things, chances are it's going to raise their happiness level. If it raises their happiness level, guess who else is happy? You. So that's when I talk about kind of men being more kind of simple creatures than women. I always joke that, with men, if you flatter them, fool around with them, and feed them, they are happy. Like, in all sincerity, I mean, there's always going to be little things here and there, right? But if you can do those three things, a man is going to be a pretty happy man, right? Whereas women, we are so much more complicated and nuanced, right? But I think it's just a matter of figuring out what does your man need and what does your man like and what are you willing to do off of that list. And then trying some of those things out, trying some new things. Even if something's a little bit uncomfortable at first because it's not something that you're used to doing, that's okay as long as it's not, emotionally damaging you or physically hurting you. A little discomfort when you try something new is completely natural. If you try something new for a month or two and you really just think this is not for me, don't do it, But being able to make that assessment and then figuring out what you're okay with is a great step towards having a happier relationship.
Exactly, and there's some great tips in there. Remember to check this book out. One of the things, under the topic of the simple creatures, I have a quick story to share that elaborates that, and if you don't mind. But
no.
If my husband doesn't mind, I'm sorry, baby, if you get upset. But it's awesome.
He's probably used to it by now.
Probably, yeah. I reference him quite often on radio because he's such an amazing person. And when we were dating early on, first Valentine's, he brought me a stuffed animal and a little bag with a necklace in the bag. And, of course, in the beginning in your relationships, everything is so new. You're like, oh, yeah, this is so cute. Oh, thank you, I love it, And you get very giddy and everything. And this is how simple our man creatures are, and I love them for it because I wish I could be that simple. He was like, yes, stuffed animals. She likes stuffed animals. And I was getting stuffed animals for everything. Because, well, he took the cue. And this is my point, When, he took the cue, what I told him in the beginning, and I got so many stuffed animals I couldn't take it anymore, and I said, baby.
Oh, my God, that's adorable.
No more, please. I know, it is adorable. And he's actually mature enough to take pride in that title, adorable, because I tell him that quite often. But it's just elaborating on what you're saying, that they are simple. You tell them something straightforward. He took the cue and he ran with it.
Exactly. And, it's funny. One of the things in the book for the ladies, I help teach them how to argue effectively. And it comes from the same basic idea. Like, if you need to argue with a man, you argue in bulleted lists. It's not a dissertation. You are not writing your doctorate. This is about arguing in bulleted list format. So it's the same kind of thing because they do process information differently than we do. Just like with the stuff that he latched onto the stuffed animal, oh, she likes teddy bears, and it ran with it, which is absolutely precious. And I have to admit, I'm a complete teddy bear junkie. They're all over the house. Oh, my God. I'm on my sofa right now, and there's probably 30 teddy bears. I know that makes me crazy. And they all have names, and they all have partners, and we make them talk, and it's awful. But we don't have kids, so this is how I get up my maternal instinct. But being able to, if you communicate with a guy in a very simple and very direct way, then they pick up on that and they can run with that. They can process it and use it, whether it's in a positive way or in a constructive way. Being able to speak to a guy in a very simplistic way is one of the keys to success, because instead of using, and this is terrible, and ladies, forgive me, I'm a woman too, so I'm saying this about myself also. Because women are traditionally raised a little bit differently than men traditionally are raised to be more abrupt, more abrasive, whereas when women are, we're called bitches. So we tend to learn how to manipulate language to say what we want to say in a way that's not going to have people look at us like we're caustic. Well, that works great with other women, and if you're trying to get your husband to buy you a certain something, whatever, that might work. But when it comes to, real communication and really solving problems or, identifying what makes you happy, what doesn't make you happy, being straightforward is the key to success and happiness when communicating with a guy. Are you guys like that? Are you really kind of
Definitely. Definitely. And my husband is a note taker. If he hears, I think when I talk, he hears, I like, I want, I love, and then whatever's behind it. And he makes a note.
I love your husband.
He's the husband that gets a gift a year before your birthday.
That is so funny. Your husband sounds like quite the good catch, young lady.
He is. He's wonderful. You're a wonderful baby. I know you're listening. There are a few things, but I'm sure on my side as well.
Yeah, it's impossible not to. You have two different people from competing different backgrounds. You're going to have different things. But here's a really good thing to do. If you're single, do this in your next relationship. If you're new in a relationship, do it tonight. And even if you've been in a relationship for a while, it can't hurt to revisit this. Here's a little thing that my husband and I did when we first started dating. We had been going out about a month, and we just get along. I mean, Grant and I just don't fight. We're just not fighters. I mean, we will stand up when we need to, but neither one of us are overly confrontational. We're very easygoing. Right. So about a month into the relationship, my husband looked at me, or at the time, obviously we weren't married, but he looked at me and he said, something has to be desperately wrong with you. What is that? And he's like, well, we don't fight, and you never tell me what to do, and I don't get it. What's wrong with you? And I'm like, okay, if you would like to know the areas in which I'm crazy, I will happily educate you right now. And he's like, okay. So we had a short little conversation because, again, not a dissertation, a bulleted list. And I said, I'm going to tell you the things that make me happy and the things that make me miserable, and I want you to do the same thing. So we were starting off our relationship with putting out, the things that we know ourselves well enough that are going to drive us crazy or make us full of bliss. So I looked at him and I said, when you are out with me or when we are together, if you comment on other women or your tongue hangs out at them, I will go from sweet to psycho in 5 seconds flat. I'm fully aware that I'm crazy about it. I know that I overreact. I so know that I overreact, but it's who I am. It's how I am. It's a respect thing with me. It's not jealousy. It's not insecurity. It's respect. When you're out with the boys and you guys want to drool all over, that's fine. But when you're with me, you're with me. I said, if you ever go to a strip club, you need to lie. You don't have to tell me you were at church, but, you could be at the bar with the guys, but I don't want to know because, again, my head's going to pop off, and it's going to unrealistically pop off. I'm going to take it to the nth level. And I'm sorry, it's just how I am. And So a couple of things, don't ever raise your voice at me. The last man that raised his voice at me was my father, and that's a long time ago. I do not have anyone raise their voice at me. So, a couple little things. And then I told him, things that make me happy. I like to cuddle. I like when men say sweet things to me and compliment me. I like to feel cherished, Not that, no, buy me jewelry, take me on vacation, none of that kind of stuff. Just make me feel loved, And so I asked him, well, what's yours? And he said, don't be a controlling douchebag.
That's straight to the point.
It was right to the point because, again, there's that simplistic versus complicated neurotic woman thing that I had going on. So his answer was the same for what makes you happy and what makes you mad. If I'm a controlling douchebag, he's mad. If I'm not a controlling douchebag, he's happy. So it was so easy for him. The conversation took 5 words.
Right.
It's a really healthy activity to do regardless of your relationship status and how long you've been in it, if you're having troubles in a relationship or you want to get into one. Because one of the reasons I think doing something like that is so valuable is, there's obvious things that are going to make you mad. If a man cheats on you, you're going to get mad. If he, pushes you down on the floor, obviously that's going to make you mad. But beyond the normal things that would make you break up with a guy, how is a guy supposed to read your mind on all the idiosyncrasies that make you who you are? They can't. So if you tell them, then you can hold them accountable if they do it.
Right,
and that's the key. It's kind of like dealing with children. Like, your curfew is 9 o'clock. If you come home later than 9 o'clock, we ground you a day for every minute you're late. I know the action that I'm taking. I know the consequences. It's the same kind of thing. If you tell them what pisses you off and then they do it, gee, guess who's not going to be surprised when you're mad?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, give us another good one, juicy one from the men's side.
Do you have a favorite from the men's side? A couple of them?
Let's see. I think this is something that I think goes by the wayside for couples who've been together a while, and that's the always hug and kiss her when you first see her every time, and always kiss her goodbye like you mean it each time you part.
Yep.
Goes a long way.
Yeah, that is amazing. We have friends that, whenever Grant and I are around, they're always like, F-gag, you guys are nauseating, you're so cuddly. And, we've been together almost 5 years, and we still look like we're on our honeymoon. And one of the they're not the same way. They're not cuddly, some of these other friends of ours over the years, particularly cuddly. And I said to one of my girlfriends one time, I'm like, do you kiss him and hug him when he gets home from work? No. Do you kiss him and hug him when he leaves from work? No. Do you tell him you love him every time he walks in or out of the door? No. Well, it may be that you guys are expressing the emotions that help not only create intimacy in the beginning, because, most of us are cuddly in the beginning, right, and then that peters out. So it helps build the intimacy in the beginning of the relationship, but it also helps keep the intimacy as that relationship builds. Because if you start letting those things fall aside, you're losing those moments that connect you in a way beyond roommates, beyond being parents together, beyond being people who pay bills together. You're also supposed to be, hopefully, in love with each other. And it's those types of behaviors that reinforce that love, maybe not even in a vocal way by saying I love you, but in a physical way by showing that with a kiss and a hug and I'm so happy to see you. Those kinds of things can bring back intimacy that gets lost.
I completely agree. And one of the things that it does for me, and this is for the guys out there, when I get a kiss goodbye before he leaves for work or anywhere, I feel secured. I feel like he wasn't on his way out to see somebody else or he plans on not coming back. It secures me. It makes me feel confident that he's coming back and I'm still important to him.
Isn't that the most amazing feeling in the world, Michelle?
It is an amazing feeling. And something I'd like to share real quick that goes along these lines, my husband and I just moved from Dresden. and I had to go ahead of him. I had things I had to do, and he had to finish up a contract there. And he took me to the train station because I was going to visit some family in Switzerland first. And he sat there with me, even though he had to be at work, and he knew he had to be at work, but he sat there with me for 15, 20 minutes, and then said he had to go. And I'm weepy. We've been together 11 years, and I still cry every single time we separate. I can't. Every time. I can't not. And, and I'm trying not because I know it just tears him apart, to have to leave and stuff. So I'm trying not to, but he knows better. He knows that I'm trying not to. And I still cry, he hugs me. And then he left, and, I'm a girl. There was a song playing in the cafeteria at the train station, and it wasn't a good one. I said, that's not a good one to end on. And then I'm just sitting there, and I just start crying, and he comes back around the corner, and he grabs me up, and I grabbed him up, and I just sobbed, and there was a beautiful romantic song played, and I just sobbed. And he came back for one more kiss. And so, gentlemen, take note.
Seriously, I have little goosebumps all over my legs and arms right now just hearing that story. And here's the thing, guys. That didn't cost her husband a red penny. We're not asking you to spend money. It didn't hurt his pride to do it. It was nothing negative about it. It took him 2 minutes to do something that his wife will remember forever.
And he chalked up a bunch of points, that's for sure.
Yeah, Well, I actually, in the book for the guys, we actually have a point scale for things that earn you points with your woman. That would probably get just about the most points of anything.
I'm sure of it.
It's precious. I can't even, I still have goosebumps. But that's the kind of thing, really, it's those kind of things that make all the difference in a relationship. It's not about, and I joke in the very first part of the book for guys, if you're with a gold digger, run for the hills. You'll never make a gold digger happy, ever. So just let's take that off the table. The money thing is off the table. Because women who are happy, women who are secure, women who love you, they want you. That what's important to them is the way you guys interact and the happiness that you feel and the happiness that they feel and how that works together. That's what's most important. I had a friend of mine, a guy I dated 100 million years ago, and we had dated for a while. We remained really good friends, and he started dating this other girl, and this other girl called him for everything. She needed a light bulb change, she called him. If she needed, how to turn on a pilot light, she called him. Like every last, just constant, oh my God, I would lose my mind. But he loved it because it made him feel needed. And I said to him one day, I said, look, honey, I said, when you're with somebody, I can hire somebody to replace my light bulb. I can hire somebody to come in and turn on my pilot light. The kind of support that I need is the kind of support that only the love of my life can give me. The support that makes me feel cherished and loved and doesn't involve you proving to me by doing stupid little tasks all the time for me. What I need is something that I can't pay anybody else to do. And that's where that sense of bonding and security, like you were talking about, comes into play, because when your man reassures you on a daily basis that he cherishes you and loves you and wants you and loves to be with you, those are the things that solidify a relationship. Not changing a light bulb, not buying a pretty ring. Those are nice, don't get me wrong.
Right.
Yeah, those are nice. I'm not going to complain if someone buys me a ring. But it's the things that are emotionally supportive that seal a relationship. And that's where you see those marriages that last 20, 30, 40 years, because it's not just about the ring and the light bulb. It's about being for you. It's about coming back to the station and kissing you when he knows you're sad. Exactly. That's what seals a relationship.
It made all the difference. My next favorite one is number 14, and I said 14 on the men's side so you could say it.
Oh, in the guy book?
Yeah. Everything
she wears makes her look great, and she's even more beautiful without makeup, damn it, exclamation point.
I like the next part. It's that the next part, Jodi writes for our listeners. She writes, if your woman is dumb enough to ask, do I look fat in this? Don't ever tell her yes.
Ever. And I have actually borne witness to men doing that. And every time I've ever seen borne witness that, I want to go over, and I'm a very nonviolent person, but I want to go over there and just smack the stupid off of their face. Like, what? What? Okay, and to be honest, ladies, never ask that question. I mean, seriously, never ask. But to your girlfriend. But don't ask that to a man, especially a man you're sleeping with. But if she's dumb enough to ask you the question, seriously, whether she's wearing a potato sack, a Gucci, or some other fancy dress, she looks beautiful. There's never been a more beautiful woman than her, and after she's dead, there will never be another one more beautiful born.
Yes, and then lie your butts off.
Lie your ass. Yes, please lie. Oh, my gosh, lie. Because women, when they ask you a question like that, aren't looking for truth. The reason a woman asks a question like that, in most cases, not every case, but in most cases, is that she's having a little blip of insecurity, and she wants you to make her feel better. So that question is, generally speaking, rooted in, I don't feel really good about myself right now, and I want you to make me feel better. And so they ask a question that is stupid to ask, so they ask that question. So your job, gentlemen, is to step up to the plate, and even if she looks like a freaking train wreck, you are to tell her she looks great. I mean, unless she has, like, the price tag is still hanging off of her shirt, you want to point that out. Or her skirt's tucked in her pantyhose in the back, obviously you want to point that out. But if it's just one of those, do I look pretty in this? Yes. Your blanket answer is yes. Just know that, live by it, do it from now on.
The same goes for, if she says, oh, God, I look like crap. My husband says every time, really? I hadn't noticed. You look good to me.
That's perfect, because it makes you feel good. And the thing is, gentlemen, even when we know you're BSing us, we're okay with that.
We don't care.
We don't care. We don't care at all. Like, I personally know, in the last 6 months, I've just been tired looking. I think it's because I'm getting old, and that's just what happens. But I've been tired looking, and so I try and dab a little bit of foundation underneath my eyes so I don't look like something that crawled out of a grave after a 2-year rest, right? But on the occasion where I forget, and it's very clear the difference between having, dark circles under your eyes and not having dark circles under your eyes. And on the days that I don't do anything like that, my husband will come home and he'll say, you look particularly beautiful today. Hey, liar. Like, I know he's lying.
Point.
I love it.
Well, this leads me to another favorite of mine. Don't point out her flaws. Trust me, she knows them already. I love that.
Oh, my gosh. It always amazes me because, sometimes people, and some of the flack that I get, which I don't get a lot of flack, but I occasionally do, is about this whole, but you're lying to them. Truth is always the best policy. No, it's not. Truth is the best policy in so many arenas. But when it comes to things that can build up or really destroy a person, then there is nothing wrong with the little white lie. You're not damaging them by giving them a little white lie. You're actually making them feel better. And so I just don't see what's wrong with that. I think people use honesty as a weapon a lot of times. So if they tend to be very brash, overly opinionated, everything they think is right, they're controlling, they use that honesty as like a sword with which to cut people that they love. And that is just so unnecessary when you can just do sweet, simple little things and make your loved one feel good about themselves and feel like they don't have to be perfect 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And by pointing out someone's flaws, I overheard a guy tell his woman one time, she was turned to the side, you could see her profile, and he made a comment that she really ought to face people as much as possible when talking to them because she didn't have the greatest profile. I would be like, you are either out of my life, you're sleeping in the garage or I'm not talking to you for a month. Like, my head would explode. I wouldn't stay with a man who spoke to me that way.
You fly across the table at him.
I have one, even though I'm not a mom, I can get one of those mom faces like my mom did that would, like, shut you up and make you cry just with a briefest glance. Like, that would be what would pop across my face to any man that would ever say something like that to me, because you're not perfect either, so shut your face.
All right.
So my second thought was, well, what's she going to do? You know, you've pointed out a flaw of hers that you perceive as a flaw that probably nobody else does because you're nitpicking her to death. But you've pointed out this flaw. What's she going to do? Go to a plastic surgeon and spend $40,000 so that her profile is slightly more visually appealing to you? You sorry
exactly.
SOB.
We hope you're listening.
Yes. Just don't even go there. You know, she's beautiful and fine as she is. If you don't love her anymore, leave. You know,
right.
But otherwise, let her be.
Exactly, and we have about 9 minutes left, and so I want to make sure we do my very favorite one, and that's don't forget she has erogenous zones other than her kitty.
Oh, I so love that one too. I'm so glad you brought that one up. Now I'm going to ask you a personal question. You certainly do not have to answer, and it is not in regards to your husband. But over the course of your life, have you ever had any kind of a relationship with a man where they got less attentive to your other body parts?
Yes.
Yes, I have too. I think probably all women.
All women have, yes.
Yeah, exactly. We all have. And, gentlemen, let me just say that if you want, and I'm trying to be delicate here because I don't know how racy you like to get, Michelle, so I'm trying to be very delicate.
Oh, hey, it's internet radio. Go for it.
Okay, perfect. So I can refer to oral sex in a more...
yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, good. Perfect. So, guys, one of the biggest complaints I hear from men is that they got blowjobs for the first year of their relationship, they got married, they never got another one. I'm going to point the finger at you, gentlemen, and I'm going to say, in probably 75% of cases, the reason that you no longer get those is because your wife isn't turned on enough to give them to you. Because you have forgotten that she has something other than a kitty between her legs. And that's one of the things about, like, when you're first in a relationship. I know personally, God, I'm saying way too much. I know personally that in the early parts of relationships, I have done things that if you had asked me, can you see yourself doing this in a bedroom or on the front of a car, I would have been like, oh, my God, no. But then you meet this guy, and he's hot, and he's sexy, and he does things to your body that would make you do really bad, illegal sexual acts. You're so turned on. You don't care what he does to you. You don't care who sees it. You don't care if you're black and blue. Like, you're just so turned on, right? But here's the problem. That's great and that's wonderful. But if you're a year, 2 years, 3 years into it, and you're not at least attempting to get that zest level to at least 50% of what it was at the beginning, chances are your girl is bored. She's not turned on enough to want to do those kinds of things with you. Or she's thinking, and this happens a lot, if that SOB isn't going to take 5 minutes to fiddle with me before trying to stick it in me, why on God's green earth am I going to do that for him? And then it becomes a pride issue. So essentially, killed your own sex life because all the stuff that you used to do at the beginning has fallen by the wayside, and now you're just focused on getting in and getting out because, you know, your job makes you tired, your kids make you tired, working around the house makes you tired. All you want to do is have sex, go to sleep, start the next day. Okay, that is the death of blowjobs. So
that's not a good thing.
It's so true, though. Like, any man who's listening cannot say that he does not know how to get them back if he has stopped getting them, because it's like, kind of think of a woman's body and mind as if you lived in, like, Buffalo, New York, it was January, there were 7 feet of snow on the ground, and you were trying to start your car. That doesn't start automatically. Unless it's been in a warm garage, you got to nurse it a little bit. You got to give a little bit of gas. You got to have a little bit of patience with it. I'm not saying women don't like the occasional quickie, but if the occasional quickie is your standard play, you're just not going to get the kinds of things with the frequency, the intensity, the passion, or the variety that you want. So you have to remember, like, is there that little spot on her neck, between her neck and her shoulder, that if you touch and give a kiss to, she goes insane? Well, you knew that the first year, but now you're not doing that anymore. So why would you not use those little tricks to get your wife or girlfriend all hot and bothered so she'll do all that wonderfully, deliciously perverse stuff with you? So, yeah, you got to remember other body parts.
Awesome. You definitely do. And every woman has them, and every man who's been with her at any length of time usually knows them. So there's no excuse for that one.
Exactly. And ladies, tell your man also. Like, and I know talking about sex is probably the most difficult conversation to have because egos are so fragile on both sides, male and female. But, you know, if you can find ways to work into it, ways that you can communicate, you know, oh, I love it when you kiss me there, or, oh, it feels so good when you touch me there. Like, you don't even have to go, honey, you suck in bed, here's the 10 things you need to do. Like, that's not going to work. Even though you might want to say that desperately. But if you kind of, you know, massage into it little things like that, then it might help as well. Because, again, men can't read your mind. And if you've been with him 10 years, and he may simply, ridiculously enough, have forgotten what you like if the sex got rote. So if you remind him, that helps too. We're both culpable in that situation. But guys tend to be the straight for the muff first type. So that's why I'm yelling at them mostly.
Don't do it. Well, that's a great note to end on, except for I would love you to tell our listeners about your upcoming book. What's that all about?
Oh, you betcha. Thank you. I can't tell you too much about it. There's still a little bit of secretness going on around it, which will be awesome. But I mentioned earlier that the key to a lot of happiness in a relationship is flattering, fooling around with, and feeding your mate. So the first two books, Sex, How to Get More of It, and Intimacy, How to Get More of It, cover the first two, the flatter and fool around. My third book covers the feeding part. It's actually a big old cookbook that has a bunch of fun stories in it. My husband and I actually did this one together. It was our very first collaboration. But there's a little twist to it, Michelle. My husband is the cook in the family. Like, he loves to cook, loves it, and does the dishes, which is, of course, why I married him.
Don't you love that?
It's heaven, oh my God. I despise cooking. I would sooner starve to death. I hate even heating up soup in a microwave. Like, I hate it. So what this book actually addresses is, and it's a great book for couples. If you're not in a couple, it's a great book anyway because it's got tons of great recipes in it. But what the book addresses is people who love to cook, and there's a whole section in there for you. And then for people like me who despise cooking, how can you still, and I'm going to say like air quotes, how can you still cook dinner with only like the most minimal amount of effort, skill, and knowledge possible? So that's the other half of the book for people like me who don't like to cook. And that should be out, it's about 200-ish pages or so. It should be out towards the end of October. So now you'll be able to flatter, you'll be able to fool around with, and you'll be able to feed your sweet little husband or wife or boyfriend or girlfriend.
Well, definitely, listeners, take a look at her other two books. As I close the show today, I invite you to visit JodiAmbrose's website. It's JodiAmbrose.com.
Nice and easy.
And you can,
Nice and easy website address.
Yes, and you can order Jodi's books, Sex, How to Get More of It, and Intimacy and How to Get More of It from Amazon, Barnes & Nobles, and I think straight from her website as well.
Yeah, they're all over the place. Yeah.
They are, and I enjoyed your books, and I recommend them to anyone struggling with how to have more intimacy and sex. But put away your pens, people, and highlighters, guys and gals, because Jodi's books are the condensed version or the notes. Keep these little gems in your purse or your backpack for easy reference, especially you guys.
Exactly.
Jodi, your practical advice and candid tips on having more sex and intimacy in our relationships are both simple and effective. Thank you so much for sharing them with us and being here today.
Oh, it's been my pleasure. You are so much fun to talk with, so thank you for having me on. It's been my pleasure the whole time.
You're quite welcome. Today I wanted to share a little thing about a friend of mine joined Cassie Holbrook on a life-changing adventure, being the gift of you. Clear the pathway to living fully and creatively. Embrace the magnificent presence and gifts that you are, awakening to your unique, infinite, limited, bliss, potential. Intro telecast for her new series is in the 22nd September. For more details, go to thecosmicpulse.com. Thank you for joining us. Until next time, happy manifesting.